Good evening. My name is Marcella DeShirley, and I am the program manager for the ULA Emergency Renters Assistance Program and also the rent director at the housing department that oversees the RSO division. Today, we wanted to give everybody an opportunity to find out more information regarding the program. The application was open and it closed on October 2nd at 6 p.m. So everything that I'm going to talk about is for those that already applied to the program if you're a tenant. And then I'll talk about the program that's opening for landlords this coming October 23rd. So just to give you an overview of the Emergency Renters Assistance Program for the application that we had open, this program is tenant-based. So the application was only open for tenants to apply. It's only for tenants that live in the city of Los Angeles. Tenants had to meet certain criteria in order to apply, and then we will be notifying those tenants to support their eligibility by providing documentation if they did not already do so at the time of application. So I'm not sure how many tenants and landlords are on this call today, but I'm going to speak as for both, that you're both here, because I'm sure there are tenants here. And then I'll get into the landlord application. So tenants, in order to be eligible for the program, they had to, their family household income has to be at or 80% below the area median income. So a family of two has to have a household income of $80,750 or less. So it's based on the number of people and then the amount. Also, tenants have to live in the city of Los Angeles. So I know a lot of people, city of LA is within LA County, but there are a lot of cities within the county that are not in the city of Los Angeles. So in order for someone to find out if they live in the city of LA, there's a website that we have here. It's neighborhoodinfo.lacity.gov. And if you type in your address and your address is displayed, that means you live in the city of LA. If it does not appear, then that most likely means you do not live in the city of LA. So we did receive a lot of applications from tenants that don't live in the city of LA, because we did have an option where you could force your address in there just in case our system, missed an address or something. So we will be notifying those tenants that apply that do not live in the city that they are not eligible because they do not live within the boundaries. Also, a tenant has to have unpaid rent between April 1st, 2020 through now, and they have to have some type of financial hardship. So those are the requirements for a tenant to apply. We do not allow applicants that receive Section 8 housing choice vouchers or VASH or live in project-based Section 8 or public housing. So tenants, if you applied and you did not submit documents, you will be notified when to submit documents. So you had to submit documents before you click submit on the application. And if you didn't, don't worry about it. You will receive another opportunity to upload documents if you meet the priority eligibility. So this is the priority eligibility. Of course, we receive more applications than there is money to fund everyone's application. So we have to use a prioritization criteria, and the criteria is based on these categories here that you see on our website. So it's a combination of some, not in any particular order, but these are things that we're looking for. So one of the number one things is going to be those that are 30% AMI will have eligibility with some other criteria involved in it with it. So 30% AMI is if you have a family of 4, your household income would be $37,850 and below. That means that you're 30%. If you're above this, then it would be 50%, and then above this, most likely 80%. So this is the prioritization that we will be looking at applications. And if you did apply, in the email, you received a copy of your responses to your application. And in the email, it does say that we will begin notifying tenants in mid-October. So we're expecting that to happen sometime next week. And so those selected will be those that meet some of these prioritization criteria. And so when you receive that notification, it will tell you that if you did not submit documents, that you'll be able to upload them, or you'll be able to make an appointment at one of our family source centers, 15 locations throughout the city, where you could bring the documents and they'll upload them for you. So we'll have that opportunity. And again, please do not go to a family source center now. They will not accept your documents. You will need to make an appointment. It is by appointment only. What the program is designed to do is to pay 6 months of unpaid rent. So maximum up to 6 months of rent. It doesn't mean you have to have 6 months of unpaid rent. If you have 3, 4, 5, that means that if you determine that you're qualified, that we will pay those 4 months of unpaid rent. If you owe 40 months of unpaid rent, then, well, we could only pay 6. This program is up to 6 months with no maximum amount. We've had questions. I just kind of want to go over the frequently asked questions that we receive every day from our hotline and from our email inquiries. So the application for tenants will not reopen. We do not know if it will reopen in the future. This tax measure, United to House LA, we're actually being legally challenged right now. So we cannot, this program was designed to be an ongoing funding source. However, because of legal issues, we could only do this one time of funding, and then we'll have to see what happens with the legal lawsuit that's pending. But as of right now, their tenant application will not open. So if you did not submit an application by October 2nd at 6 p.m., then we do not expect another program to be open. But of course, you know, things could change, but that's the information I have for you as of today. A question has been asked for tenants that may possibly be going through an eviction or might have a pending unlawful detainer, and they have an application submitted, and so they want to know if there's anything is there any law or anything that can they give to their landlord or tell their landlord to pause the eviction. Unfortunately, there's no law that's preventing a landlord from evicting a tenant if they have a pending ULA ERAP application. So I would suggest you notify your landlord in writing of your pending application. And, you know, again, we don't see notifications happening until next week. And again, it's a process, right? So the other question is, well, how long is it going to take for my landlord to get payment? How long does this process take? Well, it all depends on when we receive the required documents from both the tenant and the landlord, right? Because a landlord has to be willing to participate in this program for a tenant to be paid. In past programs, if the landlord did not participate, we would pay the tenant directly. However, that is not the case for this program. A landlord has to apply in order for a tenant to, in order for a landlord to receive the financial assistance on behalf of the tenant. And when I mean apply, I mean respond, right? So the way the process works is that once a tenant submits their application, they had the opportunity to upload documents. Some did, some did not, which is okay. We're going to do our prioritization. We'll be notifying tenants that, you know, that we're reviewing their application if they provided the documents, or we will send out an email to those tenants that meet the prioritization and maybe did not submit the documents. And then we will tell you, well, you need to submit the documents by either uploading them yourself or making an appointment and going to one of our in-person appointment locations. Once that is done, your documents are then reviewed to make sure that they meet the eligibility criteria, right? We need to make sure that the information that you provided on your application is correct and it matches the documentation you provided. So we're making sure that you live in the city of Los Angeles. You provided us proof at your current rental unit that you live there. You provided your household income meets the income threshold, and that you provided some proof of financial hardship. So that's what we're looking at. So, you know, there are cases where maybe there's something missing, or maybe you didn't provide documentation for all your household members. So we'll, you know, send you a notification that we're missing documents, and the emails do have a note section that does describe what is missing, so you know exactly what is missing. So then you'll have the opportunity again to upload or make an appointment and provide those documents. So once a tenant is determined that they're eligible, we will send you an email and tell you that you're eligible and that your documents are good, and that now we're going to notify your landlord. So you will receive notification that you're eligible, and communication is moving forward with your landlord. So the landlord is then notified that they need to participate and respond to this email. And so landlords are going to be required to submit 4 items in response to their tenant's application. And this is similar to the prior programs, right? A landlord needs to provide photo identification. They need to provide property information. I'm going to go over this again. Property information, property ownership information. They need to provide a W-9, and they need to provide proof of their tenant's current monthly rent and unpaid rent. We did ask the tenant that question, but we know by the time we reach the landlord, it may have changed because tenants may pay rent, or there could be other circumstances. So we do ask the landlord ultimately what is due. And then sometimes if there's discrepancies, you know, we might reach out to the tenant, etc. So in a perfect world, if the landlord provided all the required documents, then we approve the landlord, and then we send it to review just to do a quality assurance, make sure everything is good. And the landlord, at the time when they respond to the tenant's eligibility, they will have the opportunity to decide if they want to receive payment via physical check or direct deposit. And I encourage landlords to elect direct deposit, because we've had so many problems in the past with mailing checks, where checks were just lost, they were washed. There's all kinds of craziness that happened with mailed payments. So there was a lot of back and forth and reissuing payments, stop payment, etc. But we will have that option for a landlord to elect for direct deposit. And then our email notification will go out to both the tenant and the landlord, saying that payment is being prepared and what months will be covered and how much per month, the total amount, the check date, the check number, or the direct deposit date. So all that information will be in an email to both the tenant and landlord. Now, we do know that there are some tenants that don't have email addresses. So we do have a call center that will assist us with notifying those tenants that did not provide an email, and we will be calling them to let them know that they were selected for the application and that they also need to submit documents, whether it's creating an online profile so they could access their application online, or that they could make an appointment at one of our application centers and bring in those documents. All right. Another question that I recall being asked frequently is, actually, I went over the UD one, is the documents. That's the documents. A lot of people are calling to submit the documents. So I went over that already, that you'll be given another opportunity to provide documents when notified if you meet the prioritization. And save your questions for after this, after I go over a few things, and hopefully it's asked. If not, we are going to open up the questions for everyone, and you'll be able to raise your hand, and then we'll go in that order and ask your questions if they're not already answered by the time I'm done. So we have the landlord, small landlord provider application opening on October 23rd. And so this is not a different program. This is the same program. And what it is for landlords who own 12 or fewer units, the ability to apply to this program. So landlords may not know if their tenants applied, or maybe their tenants missed the deadline to apply. This gives the opportunity for the landlord who owns 12 or fewer units to apply to this program on October 23rd at 8 a.m. And so what will happen is when a landlord applies to the program and we cannot match an application with a tenant that already applied, we will be sending a notification to the tenant that their landlord has applied to the program and invite them to also complete the application. So this is great news for those tenants that may have missed the deadline, for their landlords, for the small landlords to apply on their behalf, so that they can now have an application in the system. Again, this program is only for landlords that own 12 or fewer units. So let's say a landlord applies and their tenant already applied. That's great. What we'll do is we'll just match those applications together, and hopefully we could process them quicker, because the landlord, hopefully when they apply, they upload the documents. Maybe the tenant already uploaded their documents, and that application will go on the fast track, and hopefully we could get payment out sooner. So it all depends. So we expect the small landlord provider application is just, it's the same program. It's just an opportunity for a landlord to apply on behalf of their tenant. A landlord does not have to worry or doesn't need to find out if their tenant applied, just apply. Now, there is some confusion. So if you're a landlord and you own more than 12 units, if you own 13 or more, you just cannot apply. But if your tenant already applied when the application was over, you're still eligible to receive the funds on behalf of the tenant. So I just want to make that clear. Just because you're not a small landlord, if your tenant initially applied, then you would still be eligible to receive financial assistance that way. You just will not be able to apply when the small landlord provider application opens on October 23rd at 8 a.m. And we expect it to close on October 31st at 6 p.m. And this is the criteria that I mentioned that landlords will have to provide at the time of application, which is the same if a tenant had applied and then a tenant is eligible and we notify the landlord. These are the 4 requirements that a landlord must provide, right? Proof of landlord photo identification, proof of property ownership, a completed W-9, and proof of the tenant's current monthly and past due rent. And then what I said about, this confusion that if you own more than 12 units, I have it here at the bottom of the flyer. We will be updating our website to provide the small landlord information. And we also have flyers for the landlord. Here's the English version. We have a Spanish version. We have a Korean version. The application, the same as the tenant application, is available in over 90 languages if they do it online. And for those that want to know the status of their application, right now, all the tenant application statuses are, tenant application received, right? Because we don't expect to start notification until next week. So by the end of next week, if you still have not received any kind of notification, on our website, we have a button here that's called Check the Status of Your ULA IREP application. So when you select this button, you could enter the rental unit zip code and the application number, and then we have a key here that defines all the statuses. So this is a great tool to use. And then if you have friends or neighbors that also have applications, maybe don't have online access, they could call our hotline, and our hotline will be able to tell them the same information that's on here. And so our phone number, our hotline phone number for this program is the 888 number, which is also on our website, to ask for anybody that doesn't have computer access to ask questions. And the hotline is open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So landlords, on October 23rd at 8 a.m., if you go onto our website, the application will be located here, just as the tenant application was. We'll have buttons here that say apply online, apply over the phone, apply in person, the same as the tenant application had. It's the same process, but this application is solely open for landlords that own 12 or fewer units.